This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar. Your favorite clean, functional, delicious nutrition brand is raising the bar with a little help from Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry. IQ Bar and Thomas Keller have teamed up to create a salted caramel chip protein bar and yuzu mango hydration mix. With toasted macadamia nuts, rich caramel flavor, and brain-boosting nutrients, this bar is like having a Michelin star meal in your pocket. Pair it with the taste bud tingling yuzu mango IQ Mix hydration mix, packed with magnesium and adaptogens to improve clarity and mood. With Keller's culinary excellence and IQ Bar's commitment to great taste and clean ingredients, this limited edition collaboration is simply mwah. And the best part is that 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit, Mentor, that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Go to iqbar.com today and enter promo code KELLER20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's iqbar.com, promo code KELLER20.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
All right, my friends, I want to talk about this post that President Donald Trump made to Truth Social yesterday, saying that, well, those of you who are, how did he phrase this? I think he says former supporters. If you're out there talking about Jeffrey Epstein and all that sort of stuff, I believe he said the phrase former supporters. Anyway, so here we go. I want to talk about this today. And, of course, that'll lead us into Epstein, which I guess puts me in the camp of former support. I don't know. We'll talk about that, my friends, in due course. In the meantime, friends, there is something else important that we need to discuss, and that is your money, our money. We worked hard for our money, but is it working hard for us? Not just to give us an increase in a profit, which is fantastic, but is it working hard for what we believe in? Or are we partnering with people who are fueling the woke anti-American agenda? At 48 Financial, they believe your money should reflect your values. That's why they specialize in biblically responsible investing. That means they screen out companies that do not align with your faith and your values, and they'll help you create a plan that fits your goals and purpose. And if you just jump on over to 48financial.com/Todd, they'll show you how your current investments stack up against your values. So you can do a short assessment, and you can find out if your investments are, in fact, aligned with what you believe and your values. Again, that's 48financial.com/Todd. That's where you go for the assessment. 48 Financial, helping us align our money with our mission. All right. Yesterday, what time was this? Yesterday was after I produced the show. I didn't see this. It was 9:43 a.m. President Trump goes to Truth Social and posts this. Now, it's lengthy, but not super lengthy. It's long enough, short enough, I should say, for me to read, but it is a little bit lengthy. Here we go. The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again. Just like with the fake, all caps, and fully discredited Steele dossier, the lying 51 intelligence, in quotation marks, agents, the laptop from hell, which the Dems swore came from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom, and even the Russia scam itself, a totally fake and made-up story used in order to hide Crooked Hillary's big loss in the 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They are not good. They are no good at governing, no good at policy, and no good at picking winning candidates. All right, let's pause for a moment. Let me read it first, and then I'll go back and we'll go through this. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam, all caps, is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past, oh yes, capital P-A-S-T, past supporters have bought into this, quote, BS is what Trump spells, writes the whole phrase here, but I'll just say BS, hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. I have had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. Does he include his first term in this analysis? I don't know. And all these people want to talk about, with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems, is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Listen, I remember, I go back in time here to the, when Trump first came onto the political scene in a serious sort of way. It was taken as a joke by a lot of people, but when he first came onto the political scene in 2015, when he actually threw his name in the hat to be president, the Republican nominee for president of the United States, I remember watching this phenomenon. By the way, this happened right about the same time that we launched this program, which is pretty cool to think about. It wasn't, of course, planned. This has never been I've been supportive of virtually all of what Trump has been doing. But I wouldn't call this a MAGA podcast. Or talk show. I don't wear, not that I have a problem with it. I'm just not a guy I don't wear MAGA gear. My son has a MAGA hat. I'm not against it. It's just not my personality. I'm just not that way. And that's fine if you are. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that this timeline of my show aligns with the timeline of Trump's term, not his term in office, but his political life, I guess, political lifespan. He came down the escalators in 2015, June or July. We launched this program in 2015 on August 10th, which is about a month away. We'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary here. So it's been interesting to kind of grow alongside this and be able to talk about this virtually from day one. But I remember, because I never have listened to any other program. I just don't listen to anyone else for several reasons. But the main one is I don't ever want what I say on here to be an echo of something I've picked up somewhere else. I mean, I will listen to sound bites, I will read, I will do all that sort of stuff, but I don't listen to anyone. I listened to Rush Limbaugh, who I consider to be the greatest at this ever. And I think everyone else is competing still for second place. A very, 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 very distant second place. Think of Michael Jordan, or Rush Limbaugh as Michael Jordan in this industry. And then everyone else is talking about who else is on the starting five, basically. And that may be even a reach, because Rush was incredibly good at this. And Rush, one of the things I don't want to say I learned from Rush, but I thought as well, and Rush articulated it, was that Trump was not, his power was not derived in collusion or in coordination with people in the media. No one propped him up to get him the success that he had. He went straight to the people. He connected with the people in the MAGA movement, which I would include myself even though what I said is true. I'm not the guy that's wearing it, but I am in that group. I am one of those people who has been upset at my government, who had been upset at Republicans for being either weak or not conservative enough. I don't want to say given up hope on my country, because I hadn't. I had given up hope on people who are Republicans in fixing the problems, actually addressing them. It was maddening. I hadn't given up, but I barely had hope. I barely had hope that someone was going to step up. And this guy, Trump, has stepped up in a mighty way. Whether he considers me a former supporter, it's fine. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I don't care. I'm interested in outcomes. I'm interested in ideas. I'm interested in the rule of law. I'm interested in the Constitution. I'm interested in restoring government to its proper size and scope. I'm interested in the work of DOJ. I'm interested in strong national defense. I'm interested in free speech. I'm interested in the protection of the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. I'm interested in those sorts of things. I don't need to be part of any group other than to work alongside of people to accomplish these ends. And Trump has been someone that we have been able to do that with. So, but Rush had said Trump is the only person that can control his the connection he has with his base. So no one, in other words, no one made Trump, no one can stop Trump. And there is a ton of truth to that. I mean, you think about just what we have witnessed and what we have walked through here with President Trump. We had a guy who was elected, was given basically zero chance in 2016, was mocked and ridiculed. Even on the morning of the election, they were telling us Trump had something like a 5% chance or 3% chance or something like that. They were coordinating Hillary Rodham Clinton. I have been told by people that they know of people who were liberals in 2016 who took some champagne with them on the way to work in the morning to celebrate Hillary's victory that night. I mean, they were certain that this was going to happen. And so we walked through that. I remember being on live. I don't know why Freedom put me on. I love Jeremy and the station over there, but I had been doing live radio for all of a month, and they put me on live election night. And to make matters worse, that's a story in and of itself. I'll give you the quick version. I was supposed to go in and provide updates during other programs that were airing that night. I think Michael Savage was on. I can't remember exactly. And I was going to give updates during the commercial breaks, which is, 4 or 5 minutes every, 10, 12 minutes or whatever. It would be more of pretty manageable. I would have had to gotten to it quickly. Then sometime during the show, Jeremy comes into the studio and he has a funny look on his face. And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I've got dead air. I lost the feed to the show." I think it was Savage's show. And he said, "This never happens." And he said, "Can you take the whole thing?" And I said, "What do you mean? The whole thing, like the whole hour?" He said, "Yeah, we have dead air." And I said, "Yes." He said, "How long do you need?" I said, 60 seconds. And he walked back into the studio, hit the intro music, and I was on. I had been doing this for I kid you not, I started October 3rd on live radio, and this was whatever the election day was, 2016. So, but I mean, I remember that night. I remember coming to I had hope that Trump could win. I don't know if it was more of the emotional hope or, I still thought that he was widely supported. But, you never know. We were lied to. We are lied to so much. You can never trust these polls. That's as much about trying to discourage Republicans and prop up Democrats and all that as anything else. And I remember at the moment when I started thinking, this guy really might win. And I had to sign off that night around midnight before really knowing that he had won. But I was to the point where I thought I was almost certain. And I remember later coming home, being up most of the night, and actually seeing, I think Hillary's people went home. They didn't actually do a concession then. They went home for the night or some such thing. But I remember sometime overnight coming to the realization that Trump won. And I remember that. What he's talking about here. I remember the Steele dossier. I remember the 51 intelligence agents, because why do I remember that? Well, I remember that because we talked about it, but I also remember that because some guy, you're listening to him, talking to you on the radio or through the podcast, somehow knew more about what Russian intelligence was up to than the 51 so-called intelligence experts who told us that the Hunter Biden laptop scandal was Russian disinformation. The laptop from hell, as Trump says. I was here to talk with you about Russia, Russia, Russia. I told you, we go through this. We've gone through this over the course of 10 years. The idea that Trump met with Putin in the Kremlin, probably sipping some vodka. Even though Trump says he doesn't drink alcohol, we know he does. He's got to be in there sipping vodka with Putin. Having the social media experts from Putin's team come out and come up with a plan on how to steal the election, to trick Hillary voters into voting for Trump by using social media ads on Facebook and Twitter and Pokemon Go. I talk with you about all these things. I followed these things. Those things are fake and fully discredited. I remember when they spied on his campaign. I remember this. He's right. This is all that the left does. The media allows them. They partner with them. They carry the water for them for the stupid. I think the Russia collusion story is the stupidest thing. For people who believe that, the level of just pure stupidity to think that that's how you have the last step. The last step of some grand scheme as an ad campaign is preposterous to me. But I've been through these things. I've been through them with you. I've stood by Trump as we've gone through these. Trump has been right. Trump has been vilified through all these. But now, because I mentioned Jeffrey Epstein, Trump calls me a former supporter. What do you call a former? Is that the word? It's a long post, but basically a former supporter. Now, fortunately, I'm not going to let that get in the way here, because the Jeffrey Epstein stuff matters. Mattered to Trump in the past. It mattered to Trump when he wasn't in office. He talked about these things. He even hinted at some of the conspiratorial stuff with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying I know the answers, but I do know this. That what Jeffrey Epstein is alleged to have done, and Ghislaine Maxwell, what they have been alleged, well, she's in prison, right? Jeffrey Epstein was convicted at a state level. He spent time in the clink, in the jail anyway, about these matters. There were children involved. They were exploited by Jeffrey Epstein. Conspiracy demands that, conspiracy means that there were other people involved. Why is no one else held to account? Why? Why not? We were told by Pam Bondi. She had the Epstein list on her desk, to which she was saying I was referring to the files, and maybe she was. But forgive us for thinking that there's a lot of unanswered questions here, and forgive us for not blindly having allegiance to what you're doing. We can still support. Listen, I've supported what Trump has done, even yesterday probably on this show. I haven't talked a ton about Jeffrey Epstein. We talked about it once a couple of weeks ago. I talked about it a second time, and I'm talking about it now. I'm talking about it now because Trump said apparently we're talking about it too much, and he doesn't want supporters. We're past supporters for buying into the BS. I'm not buying into anything. I'm asking questions that are unanswered. That's what I'm doing. I'm asking questions that are unanswered. And I know some of you agree with Trump. Listen, I don't want to keep talking about this, but I can only think of a few reasons to go to the point that he is calling out his supporters. Why can't, listen, you don't have to be uniform in the way you look at every issue. He's right here when he says that the Democrats stick together. They do. They do stick together differently than Republicans. The Democrats actually have more of a litmus test than the Republican Party would ever dream of having. We have more diversity of thought and ideas. We don't agree on every little issue. And I don't think that we should. It's okay to have differences of opinion. It's okay that he's annoyed that people like me are talking about this. But to say that you're not supporters of his, if you talk about this, what the world is that supposed to mean? That makes me think even that this is a bigger deal than I did yesterday before I read this. Got a lot more to say about this, my friends. Take a deep breath here. Mike Lindell, My Pillow, the employees there want to say thank you. We partnered there with them for a couple of years now, and I know many of you have bought their products. Use promo code Todd. You've gotten their pillows. You've bought their slippers. You've got the sheets. You've got towels. You might even have gotten a dog bed like we have for Tango, Echo, and Kilo. Kilo got a haircut yesterday. Kilo looks good. I can't decide, though, if I like him shaggy or shaved better. But anyway, My Pillow, and Mike Lindell say thank you for that. They also want you to know they've got a deal on their Percale bed sheets that is as low as $24.98. You can find that deal along with many others at mypillow.com. Use promo code Todd. You'll get the $24.98 special on Percale bed sheets, or you'll get discounts on other products as well. Check it out, mypillow.com, promo code Todd. All right, so the Democrats do require more of a, that you're in lockstep, that you're in unison with what the party says. The Republicans are not like that. And so asking questions has become, I guess, a problem here for Trump. So Trump goes after his former supporters, past supporters, says he doesn't want your support if you're out there talking about the Epstein files. What is this all about? It seems like, I mean, if this is what they've told us it is, this seems to me like a way over the top response to this. If they're telling us the truth, and if there's no list, and if Epstein really killed himself, then this is way over the top on how I think someone would respond to this. So what is really going on here? To me, this only serves to validate that there is something else here that, well, many of us suspect or have questions about or whatever. I want to get into that, but I'm up against the time here, my friends. Quick timeout is necessary. You're listening here to the home of conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Despite what Trump says, still a current supporter, even though I have questions about Epstein. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Talking here about Trump's post on Truth Social. By the way, as I talk about this today, I want you to listen, because I know some of you, it's interesting to me. You get messages and feedback all over the board. I get some messages that say, why don't you ever criticize the Republican Party? I got other messages that, think maybe I'm being too hard on Trump or the Republican Party or whatever. It is just interesting to me how people interpret things. But I will say this, whether you agree with me or not, whether you agree with Trump on this or not, ask yourself this: how many people out there who have a program like this, who have a blog like this, are going to actually continue saying, are they going to do an about face here if they had questions about Epstein? is being called out by the president for raising questions or concerns about it. And believe me, I am in the group that's talked about it significantly less than other people. Not to say it didn't matter, not to say that it doesn't need to be discussed. We have talked about it, I think, 3 times. 3 times, counting this episode. But what is this reaction all about, my friends? What in the world it justifies this level of Trump going after his supporters to the point of saying, if you're not with me on Epstein, if you mention the word Epstein in your conversations, you're not with me anymore. What could justify that? I don't think like that. I don't. And listen, he's not wrong in much of, in some of what he says here, in the sense that, look, we have real jobs, real things to accomplish. We got to advance this country. We got to fix what Biden has done. And I'm sure that some of these questions, some of this discussion has derailed some of that effort. I understand that. And we don't want that to happen. But part of what we want as conservative, at least me anyway, is I want there to be justice under the law. I don't want something to get swept under the rug because fill in the blank. The people who would be implicated, our relationships with perhaps another country. I'll go through some possible explanations. But Trump's reaction here tells me that there's something else going on. Trump's it's not just he disagrees with us and about something that isn't that big of a deal. There's something else really, really deep here. So, possible explanations for this. Trump may be leveraging this list. I don't know. I'm just saying logical explanation, possible. Just the things that I could think of. Maybe the list does exist, and he's using it as leverage to accomplish his agenda. I don't know. I'm not saying he should. I'm just saying possibilities, logical possibilities. Some people say that Trump is on the list. I want to be clear in saying I don't think that that's the case. I think that that's all we would have heard about these past 4 years, and even now, if Trump was on the list, or if he's on the list, he's on there as taking a flight with Jeffrey Epstein to something innocuous. He's not implicated in something in a more grotesque or evil sense. I don't believe that's the case, but that's at least a logical possibility here. Maybe Trump's allies are on the list. Maybe Trump's allies, political allies, Republicans, powerful people, governors, senators, representatives, donors. I'm not saying that this. I'm just saying it is a possibility. Why else would you have this level of reaction to say if you talk about the list, you're not a supporter of mine anymore? Maybe everyone in Washington, D.C. is on the list. Maybe it's such a threat to the city or to the nation's capital, to our government, to our being able to function. Maybe it would bring about an utter collapse or just a response from the people that they don't want to deal with. I don't know. I'm not suggesting any of these things. I'm just saying, what could the possible explanation for this be? Now, I say all that. The one that I think is possibly the most likely is this next one. An ally may be implicated in some way by the list. You may have seen that there's been talk about Epstein being an intelligent asset of another country, maybe even the Mossad of Israel. And it could be something like that. Just imagine if the Mossad, if the Israeli intelligence or another ally's intelligence were actually the ones that were using this information, had this information. And you think about, again, just if it's Israel, what would that mean? Well, that could mean damage to a friendship, damage to an alliance that could be the difference between the the evil forces in the world going after Israel or not, because the United States stands in the way. That could be a possible explanation. And listen, to some degree, I'm not justifying any cover-up, but if this is your choice, right? If your choice is, I don't pursue something where these heinous crimes are committed, or I do pursue it and it causes World War III in the Middle East, just as an example, you can at least understand why that you don't. I'm not saying you like it, not saying it's nice and neat. It reminds me, I started the book of Exodus yesterday. Book of Exodus in the Bible, as I'm going through the Bible recap study again. It's so good that I honestly want to keep doing it because you learn more every time. But book of Exodus, story of Moses, right? And leading the people out of slavery and bondage in Egypt eventually into the promised land that God had promised to Abraham all those years earlier. And there's a story where the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, basically told a couple of Hebrew midwives when babies were born if they were boys, to kill the boys and to leave the girls unharmed, because the Pharaoh was afraid that the Israelis, the Hebrews, were going to have so many, grow their population so much that they were going to eventually get involved in some mythical battle with other allies and overthrow the Pharaoh of Egypt. So to prevent that, he tried to keep them in bondage, and he tried to keep their population under control by killing their firstborn. But the women didn't do that. And when Pharaoh confronted them about it, they lied. Now, to many people, they say, why would they lie? They still chose to do something that's not good, which is to lie. But the choice was, if you look at it that way, the choice was, am I a liar or am I a murderer? And in some sense, I can say that in all of these explanations, you have to ask yourself those questions. Again, I'm not defending it. I'm just trying to fairly present it for both sides, even though Trump has now declared that I'm a past supporter by simply talking about these things. Or perhaps it's just as simple as the political calculus here. Trump thinks by releasing a list that would interfere with what really needs to be done. In this country, we have real problems that are impacting people in real ways. And the priority is to fix this country. He's got 3.5 years to do that. And he's got some momentum. You might have seen the big, beautiful bill, of course, passed. You saw that these spending rescissions have passed the Senate, $9 billion there. They're actually beginning to implement some of the DOJ recommendations. And Trump says, look, this is just more important. We're not going to be able to get to the bottom of this anyway, whatever the details are. Or the other explanation is the list really doesn't exist, which some people think the chances of that are zero. But maybe the list doesn't exist. Maybe someone in the deep state took care of that long ago. I don't know. I do not know. But I do know this. That the response here tells me that something very serious is at stake. And those things could all fall into that category. But to say that we're not supporters because we raise questions, I take issue with that. For those of you who say I don't raise questions about President Trump enough, make a note today, July 17th, 2025, I take issue with this. He's free to say it. He's free to think it. Whatever. But I disagree with it. I still am a huge supporter of what he's trying to do. I just have questions. I don't know what's so wrong with that. So, friends, really quickly, if you want your logo on anything, shirts, hats, banners, promotional products, other materials, Red, White, and Brand is here to help you do that. They can help put your logo on almost anything. RedWhiteandBrand.com, that's the website. Promo code Todd will save you 10%, and if you place your order online, you'll get free shipping to boot. Red, white, and brand.com. Promo code Todd. Quick timeout. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. I want to say this in closing, talking about this. I think that President Trump has done some absolutely incredible things as the leader, the commander-in-chief of this great nation. I sometimes think that, we get caught up so much in the day-to-day narrative that sometimes we lose track. And I don't have a list here in front of me. As I'm thinking about this during the break, I just want to mention those. Number one, I think securing the border is an absolutely amazing thing. This issue had been ignored by Republicans and Democrats. Democrats bear most of the responsibility here, but Republicans do as well, certainly. Not all of them, but a big chunk of them. And what Trump has pulled off, which started with Build That Wall back in 2016, and has now gotten to the point where people are self-deporting, where people are paying coyotes not to smuggle themselves into the country, but to smuggle themselves out of the country. It is it's a 180. It is a marvelous thing. Trump deserves the credit for this. I love this. It is law and order reestablished. It is a beautiful thing, and it is absolutely amazing. And I think, having Trump be in the headlines and in the political scene now for 10 years here, very seriously now for 10 years, it's easy to forget. Some people don't even really know. They weren't paying attention before, but it's easy to forget how unserious we took we, the Republican Party, took these issues prior to Trump. What Trump has done with the tariffs has been absolutely incredible. What Trump has done to reduce Bidenomics and inflation, incredible stuff. What Trump has done on the world scene, getting countries in NATO to actually spend their 2% and now moving them closer to 5% of GDP for defense of Europe instead of relying upon the United States of America. It has been an incredible thing. Trump appointed Supreme Court justices who candidly, look, this isn't his fault, but I don't know where Amy Coney Barrett's going to land on some issues. I don't know entirely where Brett Kavanaugh is going to land on some issues. I'm a big fan of Neil Gorsuch. He seems to me to be closer to Alito and Thomas than to the more moderate or left wing of the court, and that's a good thing. We've saved the lives of unborn children because of Trump and what he's done for the high court by appointing Supreme Court justices like Gorsuch, like Kavanaugh, like Amy Coney Barrett. And if there's another vacancy, I am confident Trump will do the same to put someone else up there that's interested not in creating law from the bench, but in interpreting the Constitution, in interpreting and applying the law of the land. These are fantastic things. The man is a force of nature. He has gotten people involved and interested in politics who had given up on America. There are people that are only going to vote for Donald Trump. It doesn't matter who comes after him, who came before him, people who care about their country, but who have thrown in the hat on politics. And they voted for Donald J. Trump. It is remarkable. What he's done is unmatched. And to do it between non-consecutive terms is absolutely incredible. You tell me, think about this. Kamala Harris was the Democrats' nominee. People voted for her back in November. Here we are, what are we? 8 months later. 8 months later, and I'm not sure if she's going to be able to run for governor of California, right? That's how quickly people lose political clout and power. Donald Trump went through all of the hell he went through, criminal charges, civil cases where they threw the book at him, setting records, creating new ways that laws were applied to go after him. Got the mug shot. They shot at him, shot his ear, tried to kill him a second time. I mean, unbelievable. He just keeps walking. Don't say that I am not a supporter of this man. Don't believe it. He can say it. I'm not a parrot of everything the administration says and believes. I believe a huge chunk of it, the vast majority of it, maybe nearly all of it. But one thing I'm never going to check at the door is my integrity to when I have a question, I'm going to ask it. And I have questions about Epstein. And I'm not even saying that I think that Trump's done something wrong here other than his reaction. I do think his reaction is wrong. And as I started off the program saying, if he is going to lose supporters, it's going to be over this. It's going to be over the handling of the Epstein files and the response like what I just talked about today. Because there are people, I've seen them on social media. Mr. President, I've been with you through this, that, and the other. Do not turn a blind eye to this. We know that there's more to it. There's people out there that are saying these things, and they're serious about it. They're very serious about it. Only Trump can control that, my friends. Only Trump can determine who it is that's going to be connected to him or not. If he continues to maintain and respect that relationship, he's going to have the most connected support, the most genuine support out there. If he doesn't, that can all come crashing to an end, my friends. But I got to go. SDG.